basically on Question Time.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about the left and right, and
Yeah.
every week the left think that BBC Question Time was right sided, the right think it was left wing.
Mm.
Well, to be fair, in January, Fiona Bruce did actually admit that they do put more Tories in the crowd to reflect the voting stance of the country.
Right.
Doesn't really make sense for a debate,
No.
but we'll let that slide. It's not the worst thing they've done this week.
Yeah.
But the audience producer... Oh, I don't attack the mic, mate. It's alright.
Okay,
Chill out. You know.
What you fucking saying?
What you the audience producer, so the woman that procures all the guests, etc., is a lady called Alison Fuller Pedley.
Don't look in the camera while you do that.
Alison Fuller Pedley. She's actually been found out. God damn it. I fucking love English names, man. So ridiculous. Well, she was found to be sharing Britain First posts.
The woman who does the procuring.
Yeah. So,
okay.
and she's on her Facebook. She was resharing Britain First posts. She's a member of the British Patriotic Front, which isn't as innocent as it sounds. Like, I looked on the page. It's like extremely racist shit. Like, every week there's a poll on whether they should hang Diane Abbott and shit, and it's all just like, it's stig of the dump shit, innit? And in the past, there's been certain areas where they've held Question Time, and she's asked the local EDL reps, but not the local Tory or Labour reps. So she's trying to get that sort of ideology on there. And in this last week's episode, she had a woman called Sherry Peach on. Now, she came across as the average, innocent, blonde, 40-50 British housewife. So everybody watching... Her real name's Sherry Peach. Or Sherry Bothwell. She's married into Peach.
Oh, okay.
She's married into the Peach.
No, I was just wondering, because obviously, like, when you get these sort of people, like Tommy Robinson's not his real name, but it's made to sound more like...
Short, sharp, British, proper. Yeah. See, they're always... This is the thing. Like, if you're right wing, you've got to look at the guys telling you this shit. Be right wing. Before, I'm not questioning your economic opinion or anything like that, but just remember that these people, like you say, they change their names. They're trying to play into our natural thought.
Boris eating an English breakfast and that.
Yeah. So just always bear that in mind. The little image games that they play. But yeah, so she's this very normal looking, posh London accent, so relatable. Do you know what I mean? She didn't come across as like a girl from the estate. She came across as someone that's from London but has done well for herself. And it's very relatable to most of the country. And she basically... before I go into her actual history in it, I'll just read out... This isn't all of what she said, but this is the gist, yeah? And I quote, "At what point do we think this country's had enough? That we should close the borders, completely close the borders, because it's got to the stage now, we've got no education, no schooling, no infrastructure. It's enough. We're sinking. Surely someone's got to see common sense and say, enough is enough. You got people flooding into this country that cannot speak English. I'm from London. In the health service, everything's written in different languages. How much is that costing?" I mean, fucking wow.
Fucking translator.
Not a lot.
www.google.com/translate.
In it. This is what I mean. And people going into the
translation
NHS.
is probably some shitty Google
Yeah.
translation. Probably don't even make sense.
People are looking at like all the fucking dead bodies on the floor and they're going, that fucking sign's in French. That fucking sign. Have you bloody... Do you know what I mean? It's so ridiculous. Hold the fucking government to account, innit, man? Like, for goodness sake, y'all. But basically, she comes across as this very innocent woman. She says what she says, and as much as people like us might sort of scoff at that and be like, it's bloody stupid. I mean, for a start, it is. It's not stupid to ponder immigration or to ponder language barriers and shit like that. But what she said was factually incorrect, innit? So that's where you need to draw the line and be like, no, you said a lie.
Yeah.
But when you watch it and you see her and she comes across as someone that couldn't hurt a fly, and you think, now, do you know what? It's wrong, but you have to open up the conversation to all the views. I mean, we could go into the fact that that's how the Nazis got into power, but she's not quite a fascist. Oh, wait. But is she? Yes, she is. Fascismo. Sherry Peach, married to Roy Peach, former parliamentary candidate for the National Front, and herself stood twice under that banner. I will add, she wasn't interrupted by the host. And no matter what, whether you're Conservative, Labour, Green, Lib Dems, if you're just asking a good question, you'll get interrupted. But if you're spouting absolute nonsense, they'll give it all the airtime that they need, and they won't question it.
See, like, I can understand this being like, if you're trying to open up the conversation as well, I can understand letting someone, well, pretty much an actor.
You've got to air it to put it down.
Like, I'm looking at 2 pictures of her here, like one at a protest, and one
Yeah,
of her sitting there. That to me is an actor.
Image
so if
thing.
you're getting an actor on there to represent this,
Bruv, she was
opinion,
given somewhere to stay. She's not even from that area. She was invited down and put up in a hotel by the BBC.
Like, I'm all for opening the conversation with people like that, innit? Like,
Yeah, 100%. I'd happily have people like that on here, so we
them
can get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, exactly, and talk to them and tell them what is right and what isn't. Like, do you know what I mean? Show them where.
But give them some data and shit, and be like, no, this isn't my opinion. I agree that we should stop immigration if it did make us worse off or whatever, but that's just not the case, etc. 100%, I agree. You've got to bring people in to bring people closer to you, innit? You can't push people away and expect them to latch on to what you're saying. So yeah, that wasn't the end of the quote when I said how much does it cost, but she just goes on to fearmonger about her personal, very obviously personal disdain for non-English. I'm going to talk you through the National Front a little bit, because not a lot of people our age will quite know how extreme they were. This isn't just like Free Tommy, Stop the Grooming Gang shit, which is at least seminally innocent, as much as I disagree with it. But this is from one of the old National Front manifestos. Just bear in mind who this sounds a little bit like. National Front, make Britain great again. 1. Stop immigration, start repatriation. 2. Crack down hard on disruptors in industry. Alright, remember, these people are totally against unions and unionisation. They aren't working class movements. 3. Get tough with criminals. One of those, I'll just get in and sort them out. Like, get tough on... 4. Ban the IRA. Get out of fucking Ireland then. You won't ban the IRA until you stop giving them a reason to exist, innit? It's like, all of these bloody Al-Qaedas keep popping up every time that we... 5. Repeal...
Can that be the thumbnail?
I shouldn't have done that. I forgot there's the camera.
You're going to be that new Michael guy.
Yeah. 5. Repeal the Abortion Act. So, that's a debate to be had with like spiritualists and religious people, and that I understand that some people disagree with it and some don't. But it just reminds you of the real purpose of these groups in it. They're not there for people or to get people into power and shit. That's just the vehicle. They use estranged, lost, fragile... It sounds like I'm going at people, ignorant people, and they use that. Whatever they want, whatever pisses them off, they'll use to get into power. Much like Donald Trump and Boris. And in 1981, Nigel Fielding, it's actually really interesting read, and I do recommend it to everyone, even if like it not that interested in like stats and details and that. It's not so much about that. Like it's more of a book.
What's it called?
It's just Nigel Fielding, The National Front. And it was originally printed in 81, but reprinted a few years ago, so you could probably get it on bookstores and that. And it's well worth a read, because it is a bit of an eye-opener into how deeply fascist these groups are. So it was an extensive report into the day-to-day activities and that as well. So it's kind of like, it's quite personal and shit, which is quite good. And this is a quote about that research from Wikipedia. I apologise, it's from Wikipedia, but it's all sourced. I checked all the sources and that. And I'll quote, "According to Fielding, the National Front's commitment to parliamentary democracy was not ideological but functional. During the 70s, the Front alleged that the UK's liberal democracy was bogus democracy and declared that it would forge a genuinely democratic political system, introducing public referenda on major issues. In making claims such as that true democracy is that which is representative of the will of the people, the latter being presented as a monolithic entity." What does that remind you of? I'll just say that again. "The National Front's commitment to parliamentary democracy was not ideological but functional. During the 70s, the Front alleged that the UK's liberal democracy was bogus democracy and declared that it would forge a genuinely democratic political system, introducing public referenda on major issues. In making claims such as that true democracy is that which is representative of the will of the people." What does that sound like? Donald Trump's campaign, Boris's campaign, the Brexit campaign, they're all taking things from these old fucking fascist groups, innit? And do you know why? Because it taps into those fascists. Most people don't join the dots and it doesn't make them fascist. But fascists will see that and go, fuck, these cunts are on our side. Do you know what I mean? It's clever.
Who was it you were saying that? And it was the guy behind engineering a lot of their campaigns as well.
Oh, what, Dominic Cummings? Or
There was someone that you were saying was behind Nigel Farage and he was behind like something.
oh, Steve Bannon, the fucking genius of the far right. Like whether
Yeah.
you disagree with him or not, I disagree with him on a lot. The guy is a bloody genius, and in a way, like he's like what started this whole like anti-liberal thing, because everything he says, the news comes out, disagrees with, and the news ends up wrong because he's actually honest with his analysis. The National Front engaged in populist rhetoric. Fielding nevertheless believed that the essence of the National Front ideology is incompatible with democracy and instead reflects on elitist tendency quite at odds with his populist rhetoric that is used to promote his message. So just like the Tories, Donald Trump, everything like that, they shout at the working class, but at no point have they ever proven or have they ever even really promised to improve the lives or to do things on the basis of the working class. They just paint it as that, the will of the people, etc., etc. Sort of, it's just like the election. Because of that messaging, as soon as Boris won, to a lot of people, politics was over. Boris has won, it's done now. We've got rid of the left. And you sort of think, and sort of, Corbyn must go. He was deep. He got like Corbyn. 10 million people. 1 in 6 people in this country voted for Corbyn, and only like 1 in 4 people in the country vote. A lot of people voted for Corbyn, innit?
How can you ever think that's a good thing anyway, to completely destroy the opposition
exactly.
that scrutinises your government?
But it's the messaging that creates that idea that afterwards that it's all done and done. We've won. We've got rid of the enemy.
That's it. The hashtags about losers and that. Like,
Oh, bruv, don't.
Like,
when you compare, like, I know not to go back to the election, but imagine the 13th of December if Labour had won. Imagine how positive that day would have been. You go on Facebook when the Tories win, all it is, oh, I hope these stupid little students shut up now, and the proper British people are speaking again. All of a sudden, within a week, like, hate crimes had spiked by like 100%, etc. And it's the messaging. It's not, that's not really how people feel, but the messaging makes it like that. And I'll go back to the National Front before we get to oh wait, I'll keep doing that. Sorry, boys. They claimed preservation of whites, not hatred of non-whites.
Right.
So I have to say this just to sort of be fair, innit? As much as we all know that it's just straight up racism, that we've got fucking people on BBC Question Time that are talking about race wars and shit. Like, it's incredible. But they claim it's about the preservation of whites, etc., etc., but they're so closely linked to Nazi groups at the top. And what did the Nazis do? They killed their enemies. And as much as I'm sure loads of people in the comments are about to go crazy for me saying it, calling me a Holocaust denier, but you got to remember, it weren't just Jews killed in the Holocaust. The Jews weren't the only enemy. The Nazis sent everyone who opposed them to there. Communist, Jews, blacks, Asians, whoever they could get their hands on that didn't sit with them, they sent there. It's outward racism. It isn't a reaction to, do you know what I mean? Ghana hasn't turned up at the shores of Dover. Do you know what I mean? And it's not like a fight or flight. Do you know what I mean? These people are choosing to feel that way. There's no real physical, real life push apart from, say, old people that have seen their towns completely change, and they just blame it on the people that are now there rather than the local government that have sucked out the high street, etc., etc.
Or look at the situation and realise that you are in the same boat as these people.
Yeah,
like,
mate, we've got more in common with a working class bloke from Iraq than we have with Boris Johnson, innit? Yeah. People need to realise this. It's not that the world is globalised now. Flights, normal day-to-day flights have been going on since before we were all born, innit? Like, this isn't the...
And the more you fight against each other, the more you're attacking the symptoms of a problem. Like, it's not to say the problem, but you're not attacking the root of it. Do you know what I mean?
And that tree will only get stronger whilst we're quibbling with each other.
Over crumbs.
Yeah, that is it. Actually. That is it.
Fighting for crumbs of the cake that's been, like, split between them lot at the top.
Yeah, they've all got a nice slice. They got their fingers in it, and we're going, oh, look, he put his fingers in it. There might be a crumb to drip down economics. And
I'll fight you for it.
Yeah. There's actually a few good little books on that. We'll have to do a little book review actually soon.
And big up Akala as well. Go listen to Akala.
Yeah. Big up Akala. People like him, Loki, and that do a lot of work. Do you think that, I know we've kind of sort of half answered it, do you think that woman should be invited onto programs like the BBC, knowing not her opinion, not what she asked, but the fact that she's got ties to National Front?
I think it's difficult because obviously you want it to represent people that are actually out there in society, so people can have the watch people debate things.
But I thought the world was opposed to fascism, or secretly.
But this is the thing, like,
has Europe always been fascist as fuck, and Hitler acted on it?
Well, this is the thing. I think people should be, like, given, like, everyone has the right to an opinion, yeah?
Of course.
I agree with free speech in its entirety, whether I agree with what they're saying or what their opinions are or not. I do agree to your right to have an opinion. Yeah,
what she said, she's got full right to ask.
But in the way that they have allowed her to just rant,
without saying she's a member of National Front. She might say this, but she is actually part of a Nazi group.
It's just weird that they would make her an actor in that way. Like, I'm looking at two pictures of her here.
Just bare different, isn't it?
Yeah.
She looks
one in
different.
A pink jumper looks well cuddly.
Looks like a mum.
Looks like my mum.
Yeah. No, but that's it. She does. Everyone looks at that, and they've got.
I've actually got a white mum. Well, by the way.
Yeah,
just so you know.
Yeah.
People probably watching it.
Context, like, what the fuck?
No, mate, honestly, I won't go into it, but yeah, when I showed someone a picture of my granddad from the war the other day, he just couldn't comprehend it. Wait, hold on, wait, what? You've got a white granddad? Well, yeah. But no, I'm looking at two pictures of her here. Yeah, one, literally, she looks like my mum, innit? And the other one looks like someone that would slap me on my face just for being brown. Like, it's mad. Like, that they've allowed it. Like, it's just weird that they've done that.
Because they could do it, in my opinion, if they give the context. Like, yeah, this is what she thought, this is what she asked, but she's also stood for election for Nazi parties. So take with that what you will.
It's just creepy in the way that you've come across and pretended to be someone that you're not, and
just an average hospital using mum,
and just saying what everyone else is thinking.
Oh, don't.
Do you know what I mean? That's
on Twitter.
That's what it's come across as.
Yep.
And that's weird.
Yep. On Twitter, all you see is like, yeah, but that's what the majority of people think. Didn't you see the election results? And it's just like, face fucking palm. but again, it goes back to the people think it's all done and dusted now. They think that everything that Boris promised is getting carried out already, and we're going to get looked after. The lefties are gone forever. Corbyn should now just quit politics and just go and die in a hole because he lost an election. Got more votes than Blair, Cameron and Miliband. But yeah, let's not get into that. Let's get back to
whether you reckon she should be allowed on.
But yeah, I think she should be allowed on. I think everyone should be allowed on. But the BBC should have to start airing everybody's opinion and not interrupting it. Context should be given. Who they are, their political allegiances, etc., etc. Because, like, if a Tory comes on and talks about Tory shit, I'm not that offended. Even if I disagree with it. No, I'd say not that offended. I'm not offended at all.
Yeah, but you know who they are.
Yeah, and I know that they're speaking from their opinion and they probably researched it and shit. But when it's just like you say, they've turned her from a political activist into an actor.
Yeah,
she's acting as if she has no political ties when she's got ties to the biggest fucking Nazi party this country's ever seen. Like, and when I say Nazi party, I don't say that lightly.
No, yeah.
Genuinely Nazi party. Not just like EDL that is against Islam, as much as I don't agree with their ideology. They're not Nazis. That's not they're civic nationalists. They don't believe in removing people from the country, etc. These guys do. They want to get rid of non-English, non-whites.
Do you know what the thing is as well? If you put that into context, what they've done there, yeah, like an actor on a national TV show going out there. Like, look at what happens when they go over to North Korea. What do? They employ actors to stand in a store and pretend to buy something, but the stock then goes back on the shelf like nothing ever. Do you know what I mean? People will laugh at that, yeah, but will be, like you say, willfully misled and misinformed.
When it's something as serious as politics.
Yeah, and when it's happening on our TV, you're literally watching propaganda, watching that.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And that goes for any opinion. Any opinion they give without context is propaganda. That's how it works. But to take this back to, I mean, I wrote this little question down as well to ask ourselves and those at home and those out. Or, do you know what I mean? I don't discriminate. A little, before we wrap up, I'm just going to ask you a question. Does it worry you that a party backed by the American guys, Steve Bannon, etc., that use National Front lingo, does it worry you that they use those messages? And does it worry you that they're now used in British elections alongside Nazi party wink nudges and outright copying methods? Ask yourself that over the next week. And if it does worry you, you kind of owe it to yourself and to everyone around you to go and learn a little bit about how the Nazis came to power. Because they came to power semi-democratically, innit? And all they did was...
Party of the people, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, quickly...
Well, the promise was to switch around the economics of Germany.
Yep.
And that's what the whole promise was based on.
Yep. And then it slowly snowballed into a complete ideology. But yeah, I mean, quickly, before we wrap up, the rise of Hitler... The rise of Hitler was made possible because of something called Article 48 of the Weimar Constitution, which allowed the executive government to bypass Parliament with emergency powers. Let's look at page 48 of the Tory manifesto, and I quote, "We will get rid of the Fixed Term Parliament Act." That's the act that forces parliaments to have an election every 4 years. So if they got rid of that, and they haven't written what they'd replace it with, so that means that it's not a good thing that they'd replace it with, otherwise they'd try and sell that as well. So they're going to get rid of that. That's called a dictatorship in Latin America countries.
And we've just lost the European Court as well, the Supreme Court above our country.
Exactly.
Like, we've just lost that.
Exactly. That's a good point to make as well. And I'll quote, "Update parliamentary boundaries." If you look at, they're basically extending boundaries, so there's less seats. It gives the Tories like plus 80 seats and Labour like minus 50. an obvious reason why they're pushing for that. They will continue first past the post, the most outdated and stupid political system, because it suits them, because it means that the countryside residencies of Tory voters have more power than millions of city voters, etc., etc. The people that actually bear the brunt of real life rather than people separated from it.
Just bear in mind
entirely.
as well, the people that have those ideologies, or opposing ideologies, are never going to be able to move to these areas and actually upset that vote.
Exactly. The young people move from those areas to the cities because there's no economy.
And their voice gets less heard.
Yeah, exactly. And the next one, voter ID. That basically means that poor people, homeless people, travellers, anyone like that won't be able to vote anymore. Typical Labour voters. I don't like saying things like that, but statistically it's true, isn't it? We will not proceed with the second stage of Leveson.
Yeah.
I will not go into Leveson. There's some fucking homework for you. Google it. Leveson inquiry.
You're going to have to Google it as well, because the newspapers ain't going to be
Well,
reporting
yeah. You'll have to Google that. Don't read it off the papers, innit? But it's probably got something on Wikipedia, to be honest. But yeah, that'll blow your mind.
Quick summary.
Basically, it's a report and some suggestions into democratizing the media, holding them to account. I think there's new powers that would enable people to take them to court easier, etc. Basically, it would put the power of truth back into our hands, and it would force them to. And that, the same goes for tabloids as well. It would, a lot of the things with tabloids, sort of new laws to introduce so that they can't just outright lie all the time and get away with it. The next one, we will update the Human Rights Act, but they haven't offered any pluses, which means that they'll be taken away from it. Again, you've got to get used to this political speak. If they're not willing to go through the details of their policy, it's because you wouldn't like the details.
It's the entire manifesto again, isn't it?
Yep.
Like that thing.
Yep. Yeah.
You know
Compared to the Labour one's too thick. No, Labour told you everything that you needed to know about every policy, because realistically, that's what people should be looking for in politics. The next one, look at judicial review, to stop it being used politically. A judicial review, politically, is the only non-physical power that the people of a country has. It basically means that we can take the government to court.
Yeah.
And Michael Gove, I believe, is personally instructed at the moment to find ways to get out of that, so that we actually can't hold a government with no fixed parliamentary date to account. And the last thing, this ties into the whole how the Nazis came into power, the Leveson inquiry. This kind of ties it all up. And how I asked you that question on, does it worry you that they're using fascist speak? They're using page 48, which was the same 48 which enabled Hitler, and it's very similar content and shit like that. Google the big lie Nazis. Forget Leveson and all that. Google the big lie Nazis, and the picture will paint itself for you. Just read through how they believed the Joseph Goebbels, basically the propaganda artist for the Nazi party. Read his ideas of how you get into power without being good, basically. And it's our government, which is pretty scary. And it again, you don't look at this like a lefty saying this.
Yeah.
If you're right wing, go and take this. Go and look at it yourself, innit, and it will shock you, bro. It shocks me as a human, innit, not as a socialist or
not
whatever.
even like you're calling conservatives Nazis. You're actually saying like, go and look at this, because this is no good for anyone.
Exactly. These are this individual conservative party, not conservative economics. We can have that debate all day, innit, and I know that a lot of people can shut me up about it.
And
but
just bear in mind as well,
is Nazi shit. We all don't like the Nazis, don't we? Are we getting to this point where we actually have to ask this question? Like, do you actually prefer that to a bit of public investment? Like, we really getting to that point now. And Google the big lie. There was also a report in 2018 that highlighted this, that with the a couple of old boys basically said that were alive during the wars, came out and said that these times feel eerily like the years leading up to the world wars. And Yeah, bro, just Google the big lie and your mind will be blown.
The thing you've got to remember with this stuff as well.
It's a mirror image.
The thing you've got to remember with this stuff as well is, like we said last week, once the precedent's set, like, if it benefits you right
it's
now,
the new normal.
If it benefits you right now because it's the popular sort of, your opinion is like, that's what's in power at the minute. Do you know what I mean? If you voted Tory,
I like free market capitalism, so I have to vote the fascists in. Doesn't have to be
just
like
remember that once that's set in place, like, it might not be in your favour one day, innit?
Well, this is
Do
it.
you know what
Once,
I mean? Like,
it was a
Greens
Jewish
could
saying.
get in and go wild with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It could be anyone could get in and go wild with the power that you're handing to these people. Just remember, once that's in, like, set in stone, that's for anyone then. Do you know what I mean?
Bro, someone wrote about the Holocaust with that, and they said, first they attacked the journalists, we said nothing. Then they attacked the thing, they said nothing. Then they attacked the socialists, we said nothing. Then they attacked the communists, we said nothing. Then they attacked the Jews, we said nothing. And then we had no one to ask to help us. And the Holocaust happened. It's as easy as that. It's as easy as political theory, as long as the people are ignorant. Like, again, it sounds cliche and mad and Hollywood and all that, but it's so simple because it's so true.
Because that's what it comes back to. It's not about being a winner. Do you know who wins? Like, we don't win.
No,
do you know what I mean?
no.
We as people, regardless, do not win from this.
Conservative voters don't win through this conservative government.
Exactly. Like, these sort of policies and things coming in do not benefit us as people, regardless of your political ideologies, regardless of your race, colour, religion, whatever. We actually all get hit with the same fucking shit. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so ponder what we've said today. Google the big lie. Google Leveson inquiry if you're feeling like an extra bit of homework.
Go and chat to someone with a different opinion from you as well.
Yeah, bro. If you're left wing, go fucking search up some right wing YouTube and vice versa, innit? You learn a lot about yourself as well sometimes.
And read a different story in a different newspaper as well, just to calibrate your mind as to what you're reading. Do you know what I mean?
And because we are getting to the stage where we just need to value decent journalism rather than the journalists' opinions. But yeah, on that note, thanks, boys.
Yeah, bless.
It's been a good old chat. Thanks everyone at home. He's been Newt. He's been H. I've been Yak. I hope you've been yourself. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, big up.
Big up.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, fucking like, comment, subscribe. Please.
Can't take no more.
Yeah. We need the money.
It's fucking cold in
We're
here,
going to put adverts on soon.
Somebody whack that heater on.
Yeah. Actually, no, please. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, sweet. Thank you, everyone.